If you've ever called yourself a perfectionist, this week's channeled message from Isla, the mother of creation, is talking to you in a really nice way. So, welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am so glad you are here. Thank you so much. I feel like when we share these messages together, as you know, I feel like my own understanding goes a lot deeper. So, I really appreciate you being here. And to those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Ann Tucker. I'm a trance channel. I channel both from the angelic realm and I channel Isla, who is the mother of all souls. She's the mother of creation. So, and this week's message is it's actually a very, very cool message. I think that it's one of those things that can shift our perspective about what perfectionism really is and how we can reframe it in a way that actually serves us much better. So we'll get into it, and I'll share the original channeling, which I did actually really early this morning. I'm still in my sweats, but that's okay. And then afterwards we will break it down and talk it through. And there's a couple really juicy paragraphs in there that I'm super excited to go through with you. I also want to let you know if you have been thinking about joining Emilio Ortiz and I for our collaborative project, we're starting this Monday. So we begin, I think that is the first of the month. That's on Mondays when we start at 10 a.m. We will kick it off. It's a 3-week container where we are exploring the theme of freedom in our lives, which is super important because freedom is, as Isla has told us, it is the gateway to the new reality. So come on along with us, have some fun. It's meant to be both a process that opens us and helps us explore ourselves a little more deeply in a container that is also a lot of fun. We have on Mondays, every Monday for the 3 weeks, Emilio and I will be together kicking off the week. We're also together again on Thursdays. I'll be channeling both days. Thursdays we're doing live Q&A and some hot spots, which is going to be super cool. We have some group, like small group stuff that you're going to be doing, journaling opportunities together as a community. So a lot is happening. It is in the middle of the week, but you can pick and choose. Like if you can't make it to everything, that's okay. Everything's going to be recorded and you can participate either at the same time as us or you can participate asynchronously on your own schedule. So if it works for you. So if you feel called, if it sounds like something that would be supportive for you right now, the link is on my website, which is anntucker.com, and the very top left-hand corner, you will see it there. It's called The Freedom Project. All right, so take a breath and let's begin with the original channeling. Blessings, we are in grace. Blessings, we are together once again. I'm speaking to you on concepts that are not foreign, that are known to yourselves, that are held within your hearts. I am opening your hearts to withdraw a thought and to carry that forward into perception. I wish for you now to begin breathing in a regular manner, if you would, and to take on into your mind the concept of gratefulness and to linger there in that state of beingness as we begin our conversation. To take on, as you are listening, a sense of yourself as being, yes, imperfect and yet accepted, as being loved as you are. And into this state of self-acceptance and self-permission, we shall travel together. I am imperfect as a being. I am living within a concept of what I am that is full of life and self-acceptance, that emblazons across a solar system such as your own what I am in a myriad of truths. And yet I am not in perfection. Perfection is not something you want to achieve. It is not something that lifts you up or that stops you where you are in a state of wholeness where you may rest forever. It is in fact the opposite. It is something of distaste, perfection. It is a state within which all things crumble apart. It is a state within which nothing changes, where nothing happens. It is a state wherein you find yourself no more. As a human consciousness, as the soul with which I am speaking, change is essential to what you are. Change opens the doorway for your energy to flow. It is the state within which you become alive, and that aliveness is sustained through change, through constant movement, through the emptying of what was and the filling of tomorrow. And as you step after step after step, you continue on into the infinite expressions of what you are. But should you achieve perfection, perfection is a state within which there is no antagonism, there is nothing wrong, there are no feelings that are misunderstood, there is nothing exceptional and nothing to be unearthed. And this is a state within which nothing changes. Nothing pushes against or pulls you forward. There's no reason to move. There's no external influence to guide you. There's no input from within to push or pull you. There's only stasis and stillness. If you have observed water in a state of true stillness, where it is disconnected from all things, where it has no external or internal input, it becomes stagnant and the water dies. The water becomes lifeless and empty. And this is the same for all things that are living. Change must continue. Change moves through you, with you, around you. Change develops you. Change enables you. It is through the process of changing that you become more of what you can be. And change evolves from imperfection. Imperfection is, in fact, the state of which I am. It is grace personified. Personification of grace implies that there will be growth. There will be self-understanding and new things made. There will be the effervescence of the divine that continues to shine, that does not die. God is, in fact, eternal because God continues to change. God evolves through us, through each of us, through all of us. This state of imperfection is, in fact, a state of grace. As you look at yourselves and you see yourselves now wrought with difference and things you might not like within, or external fragments of your life that you wish to change, understand that each of these are a doorway, an invitation through which you are invited to change. They are pathways to your own grace, to the expression of your own light. They are ways within which you are drawn forward into a continuing evolution of self. Perfection cannot be achieved, not while embodied or disembodied, not while whole or disempowered. Perfection is a state within which you discontinue as a soul. Can anyone or anything within this universal construct achieve perfection? Why, yes. In the angelic realm, there are those who continue on without change. There are those who exist in a fragmented space of evolution within the context of their own light. And this is angelic force. And they are made differently, not like yourselves. They are made to be and to become what they are in a continual evolution of light that knows itself within. It is a construct that does not work in the human frame of reference. For yourselves and for most of life within this universe, the constant evolution by which you've come to be must continue on, and it is driven by imperfection. Then the next question becomes, in the new reality, will we experience perfection? No, you will not. You will experience love. And there is a difference. Love is the accepting of what is imperfect. It is the release of resistance. It is the integration of all things and the understanding that what you have labeled imperfection is no such thing. Your imperfections are merely the facets of a gem that need to be polished. They are the ways in which you are becoming yourself in a new way. They are your growth points. They are your new endeavors. They are the stretching limbs that are starting to emerge to grow you into the next evolution of your own soul. Therefore, it is not that the state of being will change from perfection. It is that your concept of what imperfection is will evolve into an understanding of your own self and of all others within your realm of understanding as beings who are evolving into a greater and greater state of self-understanding and self-acceptance. I bless you and say goodbye. So, beautiful message. And I love how she has completely redrawn our idea of what imperfection is and the whole concept of self-judgment because we are imperfect. And it takes it out of the idea that we have to be always pleasing, that we have to be always doing it right? The idea that somehow we have to measure up to some expectation or to someone else's approval, right? It completely dashes that to the floor. And it becomes this understanding of how we live or how we are as almost like a harvesting of our imperfections. It's like we're living on purpose to try to discover our imperfections because we understand that those are, in fact, our growth points. Those are the things that, in fact, are actually starting to emerge out of us, right? So if we stumble across an imperfection, that is, in fact, our new pathway forward. And our new way of expanding as a soul. So in the new reality, think about if we think of it that way, like right now we feel bad or we feel shy or we feel like we need to repress our imperfections because we think that other people will judge us and we feel like other people won't like us or they won't approve of us or whatever it is. But what if we had in the new reality this complete blanket of loving acceptance that we were all existing in? And that you felt that as literally like the water we all swim in. Like it is just something you accept so deeply, you never question it, just like a fish never questions the water. That you just live in a state of complete acceptance of other people and of yourself. Then your whole frame of reference around these growth points changes. And even if another person finds one, and if they tell you, oh my gosh, guess what? I just found one of your imperfections. You're going to be like, oh, thanks. Thank you for showing me my growth point. Because there's no feeling bad about it because they're in fact treasures, right? It becomes something that it's like, and you might say to the person, well, actually, I don't think that's my imperfection. I think that's yours. but however that conversation unfolds. But often, it is something within us that's evolving or starting to come forward. So I love this reframe. I feel like it's really, really powerful because it takes us out of the sense of resistance and into the sense of expression, which is key. It's like the number one thing to open our heart chakra, which is the number one thing we got to do to create the new reality. So this shift, it might seem like a little thing. It's actually a really huge thing. Like Isla's been telling us, how do we get to the new reality? We get there when we get to a state of internal coherence, which doesn't mean perfection, right? It means that we're no longer resisting any part of ourself, where we've come to accept all parts of ourself as exactly as we are today. So you can achieve it like today, right? That you get to the space of no resistance. And that I love that idea of resistance is like, just imagine that we are each that pipe through which divine source energy is flowing. And it's a particular flavor or a particular song that we are singing, but there's certain notes that we've decided for one reason or another, that we don't want to show it. Like there's that person, imagine that person who is shy about their smile and they never smile in any photos. And you know what I'm talking about, right? They always have their mouth closed. That was me in 4th grade. I smiled like this in 4th grade because I was shy about my smile. And 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 so that's like they're holding back a whole lot in that smile, right? They're not expressing freely. They're not letting that joy come through. And that's us in any aspect that we're in resistance to. So as we can get to this concept around perfection, understand that perfection is actually death. Perfection is actually the end of things. It's not a state of like grace. Like we think perfection is godliness, but it's not. Like here's the mind blower, and this is the part I really want to pick apart, is like, so like how about this understanding we have about who God is, and isn't God perfect? Like that's where you go, right? Isn't God perfect? But she talks about it in here, and it's awesome. So are you guys ready to break it down? Shall we talk it through in a little bit more depth? Because, and like I said, most of it I feel like is very straightforward, but there's a couple paragraphs here that I went to town on. So okay, so first paragraphs, blessings, we are in grace. Blessings, we are together once again. And I love in the first paragraph, she's already telling us where we're going, right? So we are in grace. And she never says that in the beginning, right? But she starts out today, blessing, we are in grace. Blessings, we are together once again. So that first line already is like, we are God, right? We are in grace, which means we are imperfect. So what does that tell you about God? So I'm speaking to you on concepts that are not foreign, that are known to yourselves, that are held within your hearts. I'm opening your hearts to withdraw a thought and to carry that forward into perception. I wish for you now to begin. Okay, so that is the thought, is that imperfection, right? It's the feeling, that like resistance. So she's saying, okay, this is something you have going on inside that maybe doesn't get acknowledged. Let's bring it forward and talk about it. But before we do, she's saying, let's get into the state of gratefulness, right? And then so to begin breathing a regular manner and to take on into your mind the concept of gratefulness and to linger there in that state of beingness as we begin our conversation. So she's not just telling us, she's trying to have the experience of self-acceptance in the process, which is often how she teaches me, is that half the time when she's talking with me, she will talk, and half the time she will show and give me the experience of things, which is sometimes more powerful. And so I think that's where she's starting here. She's saying, okay, let's talk about self-love. Let's talk about being out of resistance to who you are. We're going to start it with being in the state of gratefulness, right? And to linger there as we're having the conversation. She goes on to say, to take on as you are listening a sense of yourself as, yes, being imperfect and yet accepted, as being loved as you are. And into this state of self-acceptance and self-permission, we shall travel together. So this is where she wants us to try to hold that state as we're having the conversation. And then she says, I am imperfect as a being. So not expected, right? You think of her, she is, and she has said before that she's she's fully evolved. Like she is a fully integrated being. But she's saying that doesn't mean that she's perfect. And I think it's because this whole idea that our definition of what perfect is actually an imperfect definition. So she says, by our definition, she would be considered imperfect, but she wouldn't think of herself as anything wrong, right? She just says, this is how she grows. So she says, I am living within a concept of what I am that is full of life and self-acceptance, that emblazons across a solar system such as your own what I am in a myriad of truths, and yet I am not in perfection. So she's saying, yeah, she's everywhere, she's this evolved being, and she's still not perfect. Perfection is not something you want to achieve. It is not something that lifts you up or that stops you where you are in a state of wholeness where you may rest forever. And that's, I think, a thing about humanity, is we fear change. Like we want to hide in our hidey hole, and that's what we think we want, but we can't. Even if you tried to hide in a hidey hole forever, eventually it becomes painful and you got to move, that movement is actually what keeps us alive. And so so this concept that we have, that we want comfort, that we actually want things to stay the same, is not at all in our self-interest. It's the craziest thing, because the angels have told us before that it is like fearing what we are. It's being afraid of, we are change, and we're afraid of what we are. So it's kind of like the ultimate resistance, right? Resistance to ourself. She goes on to say, that it is not this state of wholeness where you can rest. She said, is it is in fact the opposite. It is something of distaste
You
perfection.
chill out.
Whoops, we got you on there. Keep that muted. Thank you. So she keeps, sorry, you guys, we can't set it on mute all because of how I joined the Zoom today. So we're just keep an eye on with your muting if you can. Thank you so much. It is not something that lifts you up or that stops you where you are in a state of wholeness where you rest. It is, in fact, the opposite. It is something of distaste and perfection. It is a state within which all things crumble apart. It is a state within which nothing changes, where nothing happens. It is a state wherein you find yourself no more. So this gets to the beginning of the concept she's sharing, which is the idea that perfection and stillness are, in fact, the end of life. That when we achieve a state of perfection, it means death for a human soul. And so one way I think about this is that we are wave form, that we are like a wave. And in order for us to live like a wave, once you stop a wave, the wave doesn't exist anymore. Like a wave of water, you can't hold a wave still. You can't take a wave and freeze it and make it still. Well, you can actually freeze water in a wave, but then it's no longer a wave. It's just curly water. So, so a wave has to move, right? In order to be a wave. And we are, in fact, wave form. We are a song. Like our soul is a song, and a song is a wave. It's we are frequency. And we are our soul song is complex. It's way more complex than other types of waves. Like it contains the whole history of who we are. It's like a song with a lot of notes, and each note is like all of our experiences, and we sing them together into one cohesive song. And that song is like it's constantly moving through us and out into the world. And so it's a wave. It's a wave of energy, and we are that wave, and we think that we are standing still, and that this desk is solid, and that this computer is solid, and we think that everything is still, but it's not. Like everything, you always say everything is frequency, right? Everything is energy. Energy is waveform. It's all wave. And so if you try to hold wave still, that wave ends. So this is the idea that we are trying to strive for perfection. Perfection stops the wave. It prevents it from changing. A wave has to change. It's got to change, or it can't be a wave anymore. And then it becomes nothing. It becomes frozen water. So, or frozen whatever, right? It becomes nothing. It becomes no longer an expression of something. So, okay, so she says it is a state wherein you find yourself no more. And that is I love that double entendre there, that perfection is a state where we find ourselves no more, as in we no longer exist. But it is also a state where we are no longer learning about ourselves. We are no longer finding ourselves, right? It's both, which is cool. Cool double entendre. So, okay, next paragraph. As a human, and what that implies, by the way, is that the movement of our wave is about exploring ourselves. That is what propels our wave forward. It is learning about ourselves. As long as we are continuing to learn about ourselves, our wave is moving. So that is how we are finding ourselves, and we are also existing when we are learning about ourselves. Next paragraph. As a human consciousness, as the soul with which I am speaking, change is essential to what you are. Change opens the doorway for your energy to flow. It is the state within which you become alive, and that aliveness is sustained through change, through constant movement, through the emptying of what was and the filling of tomorrow. And as you step after step after step, you continue on into the infinite expressions of what you are. And it's a funny thing, like we think about that idea of like constant moving, and I think our human perspective is like, that sounds exhausting, like, wow, it must be tiring to be me. Like we're always having to move all the time, but I don't think this is the kind of movement. It's not like you have to be in physical motion constantly. Like I think about sharks and like how sharks can't breathe unless they move. And I don't think a shark would ever tell you they felt tired by swimming. Like it's just how they are. Like they are a wave form in a different way that we are. Their waveform has to move through physical movement in order to breathe, in order to exist. Like literally, if shark doesn't swim, they only can breathe if water is moving past their gills. And if water stops moving past their gills, they cannot take in oxygen or can't take it in. So like they need to move in order for the water to pass by their gills. And but for them, they wouldn't tell you, man, I'm tired, I wish I could stop swimming. Like that's just how they are alive. Like in the same way that you don't get tired Like you don't feel fatigued because your heart is beating, right? It just does. It just is. So like this is not the kind of movement that we think of that is fatiguing movement like to walk up a hill. This is movement like your heart is beating, your breath is breathing, it's like it's all the stuff that you are moving through time as we experience it right now from one moment to the next. Your consciousness is constantly in motion. Our monkey mind, right? So it's like part of who we are, like at a really deep level, this idea of movement. Um, uh, okay, so then next paragraph. But should you achieve perfection, perfection is a state within which there is no antagonism, there's nothing wrong, there are no feelings that are misunderstood. There is nothing exceptional and nothing to be unearthed. So like that's why we want it, right? We're like, I just want the crazy to stop. But I love that she mentions here, she does say, yeah, if you get to perfection, if you were to do that, you would have nothing wrong. You'd have no more hurt feelings, but you'd also have nothing exceptional, right? You'd have nothing about yourself that made you stand out, that made you wonderful, right? That you'd lose that too. Because perfection means there's no change. It means that you have reached a state of such total peace that you don't even make a ripple in a body of water, that you just blend in, right? That's perfection. And that means nothing exceptional about you. And so then she says, and nothing to be unearthed. And this is a state within which nothing changes, nothing pushes against or pulls you forward. There's no reason to move. There's no external influence to guide you. There's no input from within to push or pull you. There's only stasis and stillness. Next paragraph, she says, if you have observed water in a state of true stillness, where it is disconnected from all things, where it has no external or internal input, it becomes stagnant and the water dies. The water becomes lifeless and empty. And this is the same for all things that are living. So this is the idea of like water in nature, like a pond. Like if you can imagine like a pond that has nothing flowing, what she's referring to here is like a stagnant water in nature. Nothing can live in it. You can't have any living creatures in it. And what happens, I looked this up, is that moving water dissolves oxygen from the atmosphere. And but in stagnant water, the oxygen levels drop because the moving water is actually pulling oxygen from the air, right, from around it, and bringing new oxygen into itself. And then when it stops moving, that can no longer happen. So the oxygen levels drop, and then the bacteria start to break down organic matter. So it literally starts to decompose. And she says, like, that's what happens. And it's like life force. How do we channel life force through our body? If we stop channeling life force, we start to decompose. Next paragraph. She says, change must continue. Change moves through you, with you, around you. Change develops you. Change enables you. It is through the process of changing that you become more of what you can be. And change evolves from imperfection. Next paragraph, and this is the one that I spent time with this paragraph because it's awesome. She says, imperfection is in fact the state of which I am. It is grace personified. Personification of grace implies that there will be growth. There will be self-understanding and new things made. There will be the effervescence of the divine that continues to shine, that does not die. God is in fact eternal because God continues to change. God evolves through us, through each of us, through all of us. This state of imperfection is in fact a state of grace. So let's break this paragraph down because it's got so many good things going on. So the first part, she says that grace, she says it is imperfection is in fact the state which she is, and it is grace personified. So what that means is, so grace would be equal to God. Like she's using kind of the term grace and the term God kind of intermittently, like the grace of God, like God and grace, she's using as sort of like one and the same. And she's saying that when something is personified, it means that it's been given human traits. So when God is personified, God has given human traits. God is made to be like what we are. Like we become, basically, we are God. And Isla too. Isla is God personified. Isla is a being. She's not exactly like us. When I first saw her, she's what you would call an ethereal being, that she's like kind of looked like a constellation of stars connected. You know what I mean? Like she's sort of transparent and she's giant, like gianter than we could possibly like fathom. She's huge, but she's an ethereal being. And so she has kind of personified traits, right? She's God in expression. So we are grace personified. We are God. So that's the first thing to describe. She says, imperfection isn't stacked. In fact, the state which I am, it is grace personified. So personification implies, so this is the next part we're going to discuss about this idea that imperfection is grace personified. So why is that? Personification implies that there will be growth. So the reason for that is that personification happened when God first asked the question, what am I? So how are humans created? How was the universe created? It was created first, imagine God is God is a spark of awareness in the nothingness. And then God all of a sudden comes to awareness that God exists and has the first statement, which is, I am, right? And then shortly after that comes the question of like, well, what am I? And that question, what am I, is what generated the wave that generated generated Isla, and it generated, who's the mother of creation, as you know, and it generated the whole universe from Isla, through Isla. So that question, that wave, is the wave that we are all a part of. It's like a wave of energy that's moving through the universe that is expressed out as each of us. So that question is what continues to fuel our growth. It's our reason for being. It's the wave that we are, is what am I? Which stemmed from the original question that came from God. So we are all exploring that question, right? So it is the question, what am I, is the impetus for our existence. And it's also the impetus for change, learning, and growth. So, and knowing this, we are all an expression of what God is. And so we call this impetus for learning and change, we have labeled it imperfection. That's what we call it, but it's not imperfect at all. It is literally the drive to continue to exist by continuing to understand, by continuing to live the wave that we are, which is, what am I? That is what we are expressing again and again and again and again. We're seeing ourselves in all these new ways. And we're continuing to be a wave forward from that initial question that God had, which is, what am I? So then the question, God is eternal. So God is eternal because God continues to change. So what happens if God stops asking the question, what am I? Right? If he achieves the perfect answer, will there ever be a point where God gets to the point and says, okay, I got it. Thanks, guys. Like he's like, now I understand what I am. Thanks so much for all your hard work. So that question, and here's an interesting piece about that, is that we are now autonomous within God. And he can only stop asking that question if we stop asking that question, right? We have each taken in that question. We each exist. Yes, we are in the context of God, but we are a wave. Just like if you send a wave out into the universe, nothing stops it. It continues to go and to go and to go and to go. We will continue to go as long as we keep asking ourselves the question, what am I? So God is eternal, right? God is eternal through us. We continue to live on. God continues to live on. That wave, that first wave, right, is moving outward and continuing to be generative because we are generative. We create babies and we create new thoughts and we create new things, right? And we create new creations. So we are and in each of those, we're saying, what am I? So that wave that he first came up with has moved out to become a billion, zillion, gazillion waves that are continuing to pursue the question of what am I? So, and does that mean that a wave can never stop? No, because, okay, so here's a thought. Was there ever a thought you had? Because your thoughts are just like God's thoughts. They're generative, they're creative, they are a wave form. Your thoughts are a wave. Was there ever a thought you had when you were a kid that you no longer have? Right? Like I remember one of mine. One of my thoughts when I was a kid, I wanted the Barbie kitchen, like bad. Like I really wanted the Barbie kitchen. And I remember that they had it at Buffum's in the toy section, and I used to visit it. I would go to Buffum's and I would look and I would hold the box. And it was $20. It was really expensive. But I was a saver. I was a big time saver. So I did all kinds of chores and I picked weeds and I did everything to earn the Barbie kitchen. And I remember the day that I got to go to Buffum's and buy, I hand over my quarters, counting it out of the corner. And I got my Barbie kitchen. I was so excited. And then I brought it home and I played with it. I played with like 2 weeks. And then of course, because it's a kitchen doesn't do much. You know what I mean? It just is. So I build houses around it out of my books. I put my books up on end and I'd make little mazes that were like houses. And I put the kitchen in it and I'd be like, there's my kitchen. And then it didn't do anything. So I'm like, okay. So like after a little while, I kind of lost interest in the Barbie kitchen and it was no longer exciting for me. And today, like this is the first time I've thought about the Barbie kitchen in years. That thought no longer exists. Like it died. That was a big time thought form that I was working on when I was a kid. And it died. And it doesn't exist anymore because I no longer care about it. I no longer think about it. I no longer fuel that thought. I am no longer asking, what can I do with a Barbie kitchen? And like if I had taken that same money, for example, and I had decided to buy a different toy, like let's say I bought Legos. Like if I'd taken that and I bought myself $20 of Legos, I could have made a Barbie kitchen. And then when I got tired of the Barbie kitchen, I could have made like 50 other things. Because Legos are like, you can keep turning them into something new all the time. Legos encourage change, right? Barbie kitchens don't change. They're just one thing and they never become anything else. Whereas Legos can become and become and become, they can become a million things. You can trick anything with Legos. So if I had bought Legos, that waveform would still be in existence, right? I would probably have kept those Legos and given them to my kids and they'd be building something. So it's like we want to be Legos. We don't want to be a Barbie kitchen, right? That's the idea, is that the Barbie kitchen was actually a better kitchen than I could have made with the Legos. Like it really was fancy looking. But it could only ever be a kitchen. So it was the perfection of the kitchen. And as soon as it got perfect, guess what? It's not that interesting anymore. It becomes empty and lifeless. Whereas the Legos, I could have made a kitchen out of that. Maybe it wouldn't have looked as cool, but it would have worked. And then I could have turned it into 50 other things. And I would have discovered, oh, you know what? This kitchen actually reminds me of something else. I'm going to turn it into that. Right? And then it grows and evolves and changes. So super cool thought, right? Super cool thought in that paragraph, like very, very punchy paragraph about God. And okay, so here's another thing about God that I think is super cool with this context in mind is, okay, so if we think about God as not perfect, right? Because perfection is in fact death and God never dies. So God can't be perfect. What is God? Like, how is God different from us? So, and this is, I think the answer is that God is in fact unified presence. And we are in fact, so here's how I would describe it, is that when God first asked the question of what am I, because God is infinitely creative, it created a mirror outside of himself where he could see himself in the mirror, right? And he can look at himself and say, that's what I am. But you guys have looked in a mirror before. And have you ever held text up to a mirror and tried to read the text in a mirror? And what happens is that if you do that, the text is in reverse. It's inverted. It's not the same. You can't actually read it that well. And so a mirror doesn't actually show you yourself. It shows you yourself inverted, right? In reverse. So when God said, what am I? He created himself, but it was himself outside of himself. So it was himself inverted. Right? And so what that inversion was, what was different about it was separated from God. So God within is unified. When God says, what am I? He separates from himself, creating an inverted version of himself, which is inverted because it contains inherently separation. So then that becomes the model of the universe. It is the model of growth is separation, right? And that is how Isla was created, is that God creates the mirror. And then the mirror, because it has everything that God is inside of it, it also holds the question, what am I, inside the mirror, which instantly splits it in two. And it becomes two inverted sides, masculine energy and feminine energy. And the feminine piece of that equation is Isla, the mother of creation, who is talking to us today. Isn't that amazing? And that then is the model of growth in our universe. So God yes, God is totally imperfect because God is pursuing growth. God is trying to understand what God is, which means that God is exploring his growth edge. Growth edges are inherently imperfect because they haven't resolved yet. If something is resolved, it dies. It stops being waveform. It is unresolved questions, which are imperfect. They don't have answers yet. So, but God is different from us in that God is the unified state of all things, right? God is not in separation from anything. God is connected to all things. Pretty cool, huh? So, okay, so let's continue. So then, next paragraph, and this is, I've been working with all this stuff, you guys, with Isla. Like, this is, I'm writing a book about all this stuff because there's so much that she's been teaching me is blowing my brain circuits, I would say, on a daily basis. and I'm working my best to put it into a book to share with you guys. And I'm getting close. I'll have it done before this summer. So I'll have it out. I don't know what it's going to be called yet. I'm still working on it. But there's a lot there. I was closer, but it's Mercury retrograde, and I lost like 10 pages of work. There are 10 days of work just like yesterday morning. I was like, sad face. But you know how it is when you lose something, if you've ever written a paper and then had to rewrite, the second time is always better. So I know as I'm rewriting these sections, I know they're going to come out cleaner and clearer. So it's for the best, but I was sad. I was sad for him. My waveform was like, wah, wah. So, okay, next paragraph. As you look at yourselves and you see yourselves now wrought with difference and things you might not like within or external fragments of your life that you wish to change, understand that each of these are a doorway, an invitation through which you are invited to change. They are pathways to your own grace. Don't you love that? They're not imperfections. They are pathways to your own grace. And grace is what? Is God. They're pathways to God, pathways to better understanding ourselves, which is God. We are God. So that's the coolest, right? To the expression of your own light. They are ways within which you are drawn forward into a continuing evolution of self, right? So cool. Perfection, and then this other part here, I highlighted this. It says, each of these are a doorway, an invitation through which you are invited to change. And so that made me think about outgrowing things. And she mentioned this earlier about how we pick things up and set things down, that our process of change inherently involves things leaving us, right? That this idea that change involves letting things go, that the process of being a waveform. If you think of how a wave travels across the ocean, that energy will pick things up as it goes. Like if you're a surfer and you try to catch the wave might pick you up for a while, but not forever, right? And then eventually you lose the wave and it moves on without you. That's how we are, that we pick things up and we set them down. And as we do that, we move into the next thing. That's how we are meant to flow through life, through this process of if you get too attached to anything, then that would be like a wave hitting a wall, right? If you're like, okay, I want to keep this thing forever, a wave hits a wall, the wave stops. So we have to be in fluid relationship to everything in our lives. We have to be ready. Like my 10 days of work, I've got to let it go, right? It flew through me and then it flew out of me and it went away. And that's okay, because then there'll be my wave will pick up something else and it'll be better. If I let that go with ease, without resistance, then whatever new will flow into me. And that actually encourages my wave to continue to grow and get better, get stronger, get brighter, right? The wave of what I am can grow, can become a bigger wave, which is cool. So perfection cannot be achieved, not while embodied or disembodied. So in other words, like not even when we cross over, when we die, we don't become perfect, which is kind of interesting, which I love that, because how many of you have ever been to a medium or heard a medium, like people doing mediumship and channeling people who've crossed over, and they're so not perfect yet. Like, the people who've died are not perfect. Like they have all their same, like, crazy whatever's, they still disagree with you on your politics. Like they're still whoever they are. You know what I mean? They're still that crazy uncle that you used to have. And they like, maybe they've learned about themselves more, but they're not perfect at all. So we are not going to be perfect, embodied or disembodied. We're not going to be perfect. So not while whole or disempowered. Perfection is a state within which you discontinue as a soul. She goes on to say, can anyone or anything within this universal construct achieve perfection? Yes. In the angelic realm, there are those who continue on without change. There are those who exist in a fragmented space of evolution within the context of their own light, and this is angelic force. And they are made differently, not like yourselves. They are made to be and to become what they are in a continual evolution of light that knows itself within. It is a construct that does not work in the human frame of reference. Okay, so this was really interesting. I have known for a while that there are not I don't know if all I believe that there are parts of the angelic realm that are not that do not evolve, that there are aspects that have come to evolve, but there are many, like when we think of archangels are not in evolution. Like, how can that be? Right. And so my understanding is it is because they are pure God awareness is what they are. They are that initial spark of the divine of I am. The awareness, the existence of awareness is what the angelic realm actually is. And so within that, there's they're saying like angels, and I think that they're like, so there's confusion around this because like we term a lot of things an angel. And so like they're trying to specify like in this particular facet of what we would call an angel, they do not evolve in the way that we do. They say, and I saw it, I got a visual as this was coming through. Isla showed me it looked like a white spiral that looked geometric, if you can imagine. Like if you looked in, almost like if you looked inside of an angel, what you would see would be this internal spiral that would be like those staircase, like that artist, it's not Escher. Is it Escher? That artist that makes staircases that you try to follow the staircase and you just end up in the same place? Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's Escher. Like, I think you're going to look it up. I think it's Escher. And he would do these incredible drawings of like you look into a building and it's all staircases. And you think you're going up a staircase and then it turns into the bottom staircase somehow. And they're all connected and nothing ever ends. That is like what an angel's evolution looks like. It's like but it's still movement, you guys. It's still change. It's almost like a black hole, except it's white light. So that's how I would describe. And it's pure awareness. So, and the angels have told us this before, that we are the spark of the divine. They are the light of the divine. We are the spark of the divine. This is why, like in the Bible, and I think in other texts, the angels are referred to as messengers. And the way they serve us as messengers is not by like coming and getting our letter, which has a postage stamp on it, and like physically carrying it somewhere. They are our messengers by shining their awareness, which is the awareness of God. They shine that. So if you're like saying a prayer, the angels can come to you and they can give you the fullness of their awareness, which is shining God light onto your prayer, that giving you full God awareness on your prayer, which is so cool, right? So, but different from being the spark. So angels do not generate reality from inside of them, which is what we do. We have the spark of the divine. So literally by existing, we are generating a field, which is what Isla does. Isla generates fields of reality. The universe is a field that came from Isla. She generates this field and we are living within it. And then we have that capacity too. So we generate our reality as a field that we are all co-creating together. And we'll do the same for the new reality. We'll generate a new field from our higher state of consciousness. So that ability to take what's inside of us and to generate outside of us something that exists, that is the spark of the divine, which comes from the second phrase that God said, which is, what am I? And the angels weren't made from that. They were made from the first thing that God said, which is, I am. Different, right? Spark of the divine and light of the divine. Totally different. Isn't that cool? Yeah, totally cool. So, okay, so that's angels. Totally awesome. I told you, this is like such an awesome message, because it seems like you hear it on the first and you're like, that's cool. And then you go deeper and you're like, whoa, mysteries of the universe. So cool. Okay. And then she goes on to say, for yourselves and for most of life within this universe, the constant evolution by which you've come to be must continue on, and it is driven by imperfection. Then the question becomes, in the new reality, will we experience perfection? Because if people are talking about, is it going to be heaven on earth? Is heaven perfection? Is that where we're headed? She says no. She's pretty blunt. No, you're not getting that. She says, no, you will not. You will experience love. And there is a difference. Love is the accepting of what is imperfect. It is the release of resistance. It is the integration of all things in the understanding that what you have labeled imperfection is no such thing. Isn't that beautiful? And all of us, we're all saying, yes, thank you. I totally choose love over perfection, right? So amazing. She says, and then this, I highlighted this last one. This is super cool. Your imperfections are merely the facets of a gem that need to be polished. They are the ways in which you are becoming yourself in a new way. They are your growth points. They are your new endeavors. They are the stretching limbs that are starting to emerge to grow you into the next evolution of your soul. So beautiful. I love that. And then last paragraph, she says, therefore, it is not that the state of being will change from perfection, from perfection. It change, I guess, into perfection. It is that your concept of what imperfection is, will evolve into an understanding of your own self and of all others within your realm of understanding, as beings who are evolving into a greater and greater state of self-understanding and self-acceptance. I bless you and say goodbye. Yeah. So this is such a beautiful message, right? So simple and clear, and yet also so deep. If we just take that extra time to spend time with it and to really read what she's saying. And she does this all the time, you guys. She starts out and she's just like, we're just making grilled cheese sandwiches and having a chat. And then she just throws in all this deep stuff about the universe. Like, if you don't take a minute and look, you could just miss it. But it's in there because to her, it's just normal, to her, it's just like talking about the neighbors. So so yeah, so I just love it. Oh, you guys, thank you so much for being here, for sharing the message, and just incredible experience and conversation together. I'm just, every week it feels like it gets richer and deeper, and I am loving it. You guys, thank you so much. I will see you guys next Friday live. Tons of love.